Hi, welcome to the DevGraph Tech Talk series. I'm your host, Darren. Today we're going to talk about an emerging trend called NoOps. This builds on a number of existing patterns and technologies. The first is DevOps. This is where we combine the software development and IT operations into a single agile process. Oftentimes, this uses containers. They allow you to package your software in a manner that's flexible, easy to deploy, and scales independently. And then finally, Kubernetes. This is an orchestration platform that allows all of the containers to run together. Now, there is a number of challenges to get to the point where you can effectively use all of these. In the VMware State of Kubernetes Report 2020, these are companies already saying that they're using Kubernetes. Only 59% actually reported using Kubernetes in production. About the same percentage said they have fewer than 10 clusters. So why is the adoption rate not higher? Well, 70% of the respondents said that a lack of expertise and experience was a primary blocker. So there are some challenges. So let's talk about DevOps then for a second. It's not always easy to do. In the GitLab Global Developer Report from last year, 28% of developers, only 28%, called their implementation good. A third said it was fair, and 17% said it was poor. So there are some challenges with this, and the operations part of the model takes time away from your developers from high value add activities, building your applications, adding new functionality. So this is important, and it takes a lot of time. Developers deploy continuously. In this survey, 43% of developers said they are deploying at least once a day. There are advantages to the model though. 25% said that they get better insights from using the DevOps, and there's more innovation in this model where it's involved. So how do we get those benefits without taking so much time? This is where NoOps comes in. What do we mean by that? What we mean is fully automated deployments with the monitoring built in. This is huge, right? So this is going to save your developers time, but you're going to get all of those benefits. Now, normally in a video like this, I wouldn't go to a command line demo, but this is so easy. And this process, we're using EngineYard Kontainers to illustrate this. It's baked right into the normal workflow. So your developers are going to use Git to commit their changes to the configuration management repository. They can use one more simple Git command and deploy their application to a fully managed NoOps platform. So let's take a look. In the terminal window on the bottom, I'm in my project directory. I've already deployed my application once using EngineYard Kontainers, so I can use the open command and do a simple preview. This happens to be an application that's the mastermind game, where you try to guess the color of each slot's red, green, blue, or yellow. It'll give you feedback and make a guess. That was the correct guess that we've hard-coded for now. But you can see at the bottom, this application brought to you by EngineYard Kontainers. So if I'm a developer and I'm assigned to add the logo and other information to the bottom, my normal workflow, I've made my change here, so you can see that. Now I need to, and I'll show you, I'm on a development branch. So my development branch. And what I would normally do is I would add this file and I would commit the change. Again, this is all standard development stuff. Okay, now, rather than doing a simple git push, and I would still do that to push to my configuration management repository. If I want to deploy this change, all I have to do now is push to a new remote target called EYK. And I am on a branch, so I'll go ahead and specify the branch. And that's it. So what this is going to do with the one command in part of my normal workflow, it's going to build my code, package up, and this happens to be a Ruby on Rails application. And it's going to send it to the EngineYard Kontainers infrastructure, where it'll build the container, deploy it, and it will be automatically scaled based on the usage and demand, all from doing a simple git push command that's a part of my normal workflow. So this is really the foundations of what we call NoOps. My operations work was one extra command, git push. That's all I needed to do as a developer. So now my deployment is complete. I can use the open command again to preview my web app now, and I will see that my logo and information that I've added to the bottom has now been deployed. That was all I needed to do, one command. This created a new container with my updated code, packaged and deployed it. This is going to be automatically scaled for me based on the demand. All of that from doing one simple git push to the new EngineYard Kontainers remote target. Okay, so what did that deployment do for us? Well, it built and packaged our code into containers and set up a fully managed application stack for us. Now, this is based on our 10 years of experience providing Ruby on Rails platforms. We are running in an EngineYard Kontainers cluster, so you would have chosen the AWS region that this runs in. Traffic is routed and load balanced accordingly. Each component is going to auto-scale based on its demand, which is really nice. It's going to change the number of container instances and scale as needed. I'm going to explain in a moment how you define the components. This is a typical architecture shown here in the diagram. You, of course, will customize this based on your needs. Now, the monitoring is in place. I can go look at the dashboards. There's integrated logging, so all of these components logged at the same place, and I can easily look at that. Now, most applications use persistence of some kind, a database, S3, file storage. So within the EngineYard Kontainers console, all you have to do is click and provision an RDS database, and that will be securely connected to your application that's running in a virtual private cloud. Now, all of this is self-service, but if for any reason you need assistance, we have best-in-class 24/7 support that's ready to help you. Now, here's the best part. There are no code changes required to make all this happen. So we think you're going to love EngineYard Kontainers, and we're pretty confident that you're going to stay. But at the same time, there's no vendor lock-in. You're not changing lots of code to make this work. There's not anything required on your part. Basically, here's what you're going to do. You have three options as to how you want to package your application. First, you can let EYK auto-detect your stack, so it can identify that it's Ruby on Rails, package your application accordingly, create the containers, and run it for you. Alternatively, there's a utility to create some scaffolding, and you can adjust from those templates as needed to quickly get up and running. And then finally, some applications or systems have special requirements, and in those cases, just bring your existing Docker file, or it's easy to create one if you don't already have one. You can define your container image exactly how you need it to be. Now, in terms of the different components, we're going to zero in on this container section of the diagram. Again, I've just shown three representative types. So in a process file, you can declaratively say what you want your components to be. Typically, there's a web component, and this is automatically wired to the router. Traffic is load balanced for you. You just declare that that's your web component. So in this case, it would be a Rails server. You can define as many other custom components as you need, running whatever script or process or software, and that again will independently scale based on the traffic that it gets or the usage that it gets. So that brings us to the end of our talk. So EngineYard Kontainers, it really brings NoOps to life. We hope that you'll check it out at engineYard.com. So that's it for now. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time on the DevGraph Tech Talk series.